FlySafair accounts for at least 60% of the market share for domestic passengers, with the airline on a normal day moving 30,000 passengers over 174 flights. The strike action in its second week has resulted in reduced capacity. Chief Marketing Officer Kirby Gordon says the talks under the facilitation of the CCMA have failed to bring the parties together.
And we're operating a schedule that's about 30% reduced. So we have a sustainable number of pilots to continue this operation without any concern. And yes, we don't see any impact on that front. With regard to SAA, we don't necessarily need them at this stage from an operational perspective. So there will be no more SAA flights at this stage. We're continuing on our own basis. But of course, operations are reviewed on a daily basis, and it might be that we need to call upon that reprotection agreement at some stage.
The parties met well into the weekend, with progress made on the wage demand, but Solidarity's General Secretary Gideon du Plessis says what becomes key is the resolution on the roster.
The first thing is there's the request, or let's say demand, for pilots to have at least 1 weekend off per month. There are some pilots who've been flying between 8 to 12 weeks now without a weekend off. That's the first matter. The second matter is to have a roster committee that merely meets twice a year, because then they'll have sufficient data to deal with thorny roster-related issues, especially if it's got a very negative effect on rest periods. In other words, is the fatigue issue.
The union has now written to FlySafair CEO to intervene.
We would have had a settlement, but there are so many egos involved and things, sideshows, that actually makes it difficult. So the sustainability of the company, we obviously take that into consideration. That's why we ask the CEO. We understand he's quite a skillful negotiator, Elmar Conradie, and a more reasonable person to deal with. So we want him to start to get involved. And then we have a settlement, as simple as that.
Aviation analyst Putero Mojapele says a prolonged strike action would have a devastating impact on the economy. He says passengers will most likely face heightened flight tickets going into the new week.
Here we are seeing more pushing the numbers than adhering to the basic conditions of employment, where you consider every aspect of the social life of those pilots that you are using to push those numbers that you want to achieve. In this case, the management should be flexible. I think the CEO, it is in his best interest to align himself with the concerned parties, which is, in this case, is the pilot. He relies on those pilots for his numbers to go high. If he wants to report positive numbers to his shareholders in Ireland, surely he should prioritize the demands of these pilots. And it's not anything difficult, to be honest with you. Yeah, like I said before, it should be something easy.
Solidarity says over 90% of workers have rejected the new offer. The union is planning to submit its final list of demands to the employer, with both parties looking to sit again under the facilitation of the CCMA this week. Gideon du Plessis, SABC News in Johannesburg.